Welcome to the JP Podcast. I'm your host, John.
I'm your co-host, Tom.
And today we're here with Glen and Lina Workman. We're at Workman Firearms, R42, Range 42 in North Royalton. And let's get started. All right, welcome back. And today we're here with Glen, and we're going to talk about the business he has. He has Workman Firearms, and I guess we'll just get started. We'll get started with Glen there. He has a couple of ranges and gun ranges and a gun business. So how you doing, Glen?
Good.
All right, so you can tell us a little bit about it?
I guess we could start with how we got started, I suppose.
Yeah, that's good.
So we started in 2009, April 2009. We're a training company first, so Workman Firearms is the training company, kind of owns everything. I was working as a bodyguard in New York, and I came back to Ohio, and Ohio's pretty gun friendly, especially compared to New York. It's like a communist country over there.
It is.
New York, New Jersey, just drop them. So I came back. Ohio was big on CCW at the time, I was just starting out, and I took a class. It was horrible. It was a horrible CCW class. I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps prior to all this, right after high school, and I was a weapons instructor for 1st Marine Division, and so I took this class, and I was like, oh, that's horrible. That is horrible. It took place in a barn. You shot next to the barn. It was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever participated in, especially with my background with the weapons training and all that. Mm-hmm. So I thought, man, I could do a much better job than that. I mean, there was probably like 17 people in that class, and maybe 5 of them knew how to shoot. Okay. And there was no real training. There's no transfer of knowledge that took place. So it was horrible. They gave a test. Everybody at my table copied off of mine. We passed. And then, these guys shot, and I just felt that these people didn't really learn anything. And there was a bunch of people there that really needed to learn something, on how this worked. And so it was just kind of, on the ride home, I thought, you know what, I can do better than that. And I really want to help these people. So that's kind of how we got started. And I had no idea what I was doing. I never ran businesses or anything like that. And just kind of got started. I was like, oh, I'll do better. I know I can teach. I taught in the Marine Corps. And so I bought an 8-foot table and 4 chairs and said, hey, I'm in business. I had no idea what I was doing. And nobody showed up.
First day was empty.
Right, yeah, especially like in the military or whatever, we have a lot of sayings and a lot of ethos and things we live by. And one of them was, if you have to tell people how good you are, you're probably not that good.
Right.
But in the civilian world, it's different because people just don't know who you are. Yeah. So you have to tell them who you are. Mm-hmm. We figured all those things out and kind of learned as we went along with websites and marketing and all this other stuff. And just kind of got started. And the whole goal in the beginning was just to help people. And if I can make extra money to go to the range and shoot, which is what I enjoyed, then, it'd be all worth it. And then here we are.
What did you do to prepare yourself for the class itself? Were you using your military?
No, you got to have, you got to be certified. So I based everything based on the military background, but you have to be certified by the NRA or USCCA or some sort of national organization. So I went and got certified by the NRA, which that whole process in itself wasn't too impressive either. It's not like in the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, to teach at division schools, you had to I went to a lot of military schools while I was there. I was there for 6 years, mm-hmm. And one of the hardest schools I went to was the instructor management course, and it was to teach you to be a platform instructor so you could teach Marines. And it was mentally, it was the hardest thing I ever did there. I'm going to date myself really good here because you go to this school and you get a VHS tape and they record everything you do, and then you break it down and you go home at night and you got all this, work you have to do. But to teach you to be a good instructor. So when I compare that to like the NRA training course, I was like, this is really a joke.
Especially for a guy, it seems like you have a passion just to express or give knowledge to other
Yeah,
people.
absolutely. We really, the whole purpose of this was to help people. We didn't really have plans like, oh, we're going to be, the biggest in Northeast Ohio. We're going to own ranges and all this other stuff. We might have joked about those things, but we never really thought those things would pan out. But yet, here we are 12 and a half years later, and we own 2 gun ranges. We have a virtual range, and we teach a ton.
Yeah.
We teach a ton.
Now, going back a little bit, were you always into guns, even as a child? Like we talked a little bit beforehand. I've never been into guns. I'm now finding myself getting into them. But growing up, my parents weren't into guns. My grandparents weren't into guns. Was that something that was just around the family?
No. Like, we didn't have shooters in my family. We didn't have guns. I mean, I shot my first firearm or first weapon in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, that's how I
So
was.
I learned how to shoot in the Marine Corps. And
That's really cool.
That's where I started, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I had grew up with no guns or anything like that, but I had my dad and my uncle who were in during Vietnam, and my dad was in Korea at the time, but no guns, no nothing. I never shot one, never held one, up until I joined the Army. That was the first time I learned.
And then, Glenn, you just got a passion. That was your once you started shooting the gun, you had that.
I think I don't know if my passion is necessarily in the guns. It's really in the instructing and the teaching aspect of it, to passing on that.
That's really awesome.
It's like you can relay the knowledge, and people kind of just, some people go by the numbers and get it. But when you see that light come on and they're like, they really understand what you're saying, that's the benefit of it, to make that difference.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to teach someone. I talk with my wife or something like that who's never shot or held a gun before, and for me it's tough. How you just hold it like this. And
It's
don't-
our experience teaching
so-
spouses and loved ones. It's just hard because everything's an argument. They don't like Lina and I can't hang a picture together, but I could teach a class full of people how to shoot.
Right.
So,
They don't have the background story. The class doesn't.
So how long was it before you started your first range or owning your first shop? Were you just teaching classes at first?
we were just. I kept my daytime job. We were teaching on the weekends. It was years. So we started the company in 2009. We bought our first range in like December 2018. So it was pretty good.
Yeah, I wanted to say before you go on, he does have 3 locations. I've been to 2 of them. You have one in Norton, you have one in Brunswick, and you have one here in North Royalton.
Yeah.
I haven't been to the one in Norton. I've seen the videos. I plan on going there, and but the one in Brunswick, I loved it. I went there maybe about a week ago with my brother-in-law, and we had a blast. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that was the first one we bought. We've made a small career out of buying like old beat up ranges and just fixing everything and getting everything to work and kind of just rehabbing them and making them nice. That was the issue we had with the training company. Was the bigger we got, we were at the mercy of the ranges. They could tell us when we could come, when we couldn't. So it was just a logical step to get our own ranges so we could decide when we can teach and how long we can be there and the different things we can do.
So when you started teaching in the first place you got, which was in Brunswick, correct? Were you teaching there?
No, we weren't. So we actually started teaching at the range in Norton, Barberton, the marksman down there, which is ironic because that's where we started, when we had like 3 people in a class and stuff like that. And then, 12 and a half years later, we buy it. We buy the range that we started teaching at,
Wow.
which is kind of crazy.
Great feeling. Huh?
Yeah. But yeah, so we just needed ranges, and we had stumbled across the one in Brunswick there, and it turned out it was for sale.
Before that happened, though, I have to say that when Glenn and I met, it was his dream to own a range.
Okay.
And we looked into buying something or building a range, and it was just too expensive. And so we were just left with, that probably will never happen.
Yeah.
And then we stumbled across Brunswick, and it literally just fell onto our lap. And then literally almost less than a year, Norton, came to us as well. So it was just amazing.
Which was different because we found Brunswick,
Right.
but Norton actually came to us. And, yeah.
And those ranges, I would say, is an extension of your personalities. You were able to set them up. How did you want to set everything up compared to what you were seeing was wrong everywhere else?
So we approached it, and we still approach it from, we're a training company. We're gun guys, we shoot. We're not gun ranges that are suddenly like, oh, hey, we can teach. We teach, that's what we do. And so we centered the ranges around that aspect, teaching and helping people. You had mentioned something about customer service, and that's why, the people behind our counters aren't just cashiers. They're not just random people. There are instructors. They work both places, so they know guns, they understand guns, they can teach people.
Yeah. That when I took my brother-in-law, I don't know if I said it already, but when I took my brother-in-law, when we were leaving, I said, what's the one thing you liked about that? And he didn't know I was going to do the show or anything like that, but he said, customer service. Mm-hmm. He said, the lady you had there was very informative, and she actually was interested. He said he had went to a place and he almost left because he felt like a number or something like that. The people were interested. Like, it's a business, don't you want these people who are coming in to buy something, or you know what I mean?
Feel valued.
Right, so he loved that part of it, about it. And that's actually the same impression I got, and we'll get to that later as far as how I discovered this range here, but we had a blast. We had a blast. You had a lot of weapons you could rent. Actually, I was happy to rent one of them because I was considering on getting it, and I'm glad I shot it, because now I'm like, I'm going to try something else, So, it was a very, very nice range. As far as your ranges, do you, what are your rules, just per se, or do you allow people to bring in their own ammo, or, what is the rules there?
Yeah, so we run the ranges kind of like how we would want to be treated at ranges, because we got a lot of that too. Like, we're technically gun guys, and we go to ranges and we're not always treated the best at these ranges, and we're like, so we see a lot of how they were doing, and we wanted to make sure that we did not operate our ranges that way. There's a lot of talking down to people and kind of just almost belittling people sometimes. Mm-hmm. So we make sure we don't do that. So we're real specific on teaching and helping people. We go out of our way for those things, and we wanted them to run like how we would expect ranges to be. Welcoming, help people. People are going to make mistakes. Don't just start screaming at people. That's like a big deal. We don't allow that. As far as the ranges, the look of the ranges, that falls more on Lina, because most of us are like military guys, or if it was up to us, there'd be like camouflage netting hanging, and
helicopters flying over.
Yeah, no, it looked really scary to most people, but
I think that's why Brunswick is so welcoming, because we did change the atmosphere, and we have a lot more women that come in. Yeah. And I've actually been told, wow, this is really nice. I wouldn't come here by myself before. Yeah. I'd always make my husband come with me, but now I feel comfortable coming. And it could have, even have been just the lighting we changed in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's clean. It's welcoming.
Yeah, it was a really nice atmosphere. And they do have the rules up there, keep this door closed while opening up the other one, which I get. And it's very safety conscious, so I loved all that part of it. But he had everything. He had ammo. Even if you wanted to rent a gun, you want to bring your own. If you you know, you needed earplugs, eye protection, everything like that. And they did go over that. She did go over all that before we went into the range, you know. So we had a blast.
Even walking in here, I mean, it's very, very professional, very clean, very welcoming. It's just it's not what you would expect from a gun range. It is very.
We've heard that too.
Yeah,
it's not
very-
a typical gun range.
Nope, not at all.
And Norton is the same. We hired a manager who's been with us for a while now, and he's fantastic.
So
He's great.
how long was it in between the two owning them?
1 year,
It's been quick. Yeah. So
within a year.
we had Brunswick for a year, and then we bought Norton, and then this one's been operational for 4 months.
Yeah.
And this
Somewhere
one,
in that name?
This one's a virtual range.
Yeah,
which is-
I want to do some more before we get to that
Deal.
because this is actually one of my favorite.
Uh-huh.
So, between those two, what sort of classes are you offering, or do you have? You know, as far as gun safety. I mean, what classes do you have?
We do a lot of training. We end up doing a lot of CCW just because there's a lot of demand for it. So we do some basic handgun, which is more safety classes. We do CCW. We do CCW tactics. We do rifle tactics. We do pistol red dot. Like we do a ton of training. We have a really good trauma medical program taught by Captain Clutter, who's a Special Forces medic.
Wow.
So
What does that entail? I've never heard of that.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, because I have for the Army, it was called Combat Lifesavers. You know.
Yeah, so it's very similar to Combat Lifesavers for sure. But yeah, it's so trauma medical is going to deal more with like gunshot wounds and things of that nature, not like CPR, first aid type stuff. I mean, they cover that, but if you want CPR or first aid, just take a Red Cross class or something like that. But so trauma is just those traumatic injuries, you know, tourniquets and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Push everything back in and put them on a helicopter. Pretty
Right.
much, you know. But in my class, they were actually burning from the barbershop. They were burning hair, you know, and everything like that, so you can get the feel of it. You know, a lot of
Okay.
people don't think about stuff like that. You mentioned what was it, the rifle or something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because for me, I never learned. I don't know how to shoot with a scope. Never shot with a scope. Everything has always been fixed sights, you know. So when you get your M16, no, don't put a scope on there. You know, that's not the way I learned. But I'm looking for a class to teach me how to shoot that way because I've never shot that way. You know, so you know, I'm glad you have a course like that because I want to learn.
Yeah, that's the transition. So, you know, like in the early days of the Marine Corps, it was all iron sights. That's how we qualify. That's what we do. Now it's all optics. Everybody gets an optic. And before it was kind of that weird transition. People weren't sure they wanted to put optics on their rifles, or you know, what if it breaks? What if it? You know, there's all those. But they make the transition now. You'd be hard pressed to find a rifle that doesn't have an optic on it. So what we find now is that it's going that same way with these pistols. So everybody's these iron sights traditionalists, and now everybody's starting to see the value of the red dot on those pistols. So it's becoming very popular, and they're coming straight from the manufacturer now with red dots on them. So
Is that something you have to stay ahead of the curve on? You always have to.
it
look for
is,
the new-
yeah. Because I shot iron sights for a long time, and then going over to a red dot, it's a different.
So that makes sense what I just said, right? For me, it was hard. You know, I see all these guys with, you know, their guns and they got all these optics on it, and I'm like, it's weird.
That's just us being old, teaching us a new trick.
All right, well, thank you for Glenn being here today. You know?
But you know, it was kind of, you know, I understand the transition to the optic. I was like, wow, this is kind of weird. You know, I'm not used to this. But then once you get used to it, you're like, wow, this is so much easier. This is so much better.
And as a person who is completely the opposite, metaphorically and physically, on the other end of the table,
Yeah, thanks for that. Too.
what is one of the first things you would teach a green, you know, wet behind the ears guy for the gun world? What's one of the first things that I would learn?
The focus in the beginning is always on safety. And then I think sometimes people watch like YouTube and these videos and these high-speed guys doing all this high-speed drills and stuff like that. But the real key is going to be the safety. and the focus on the fundamentals. You know, everybody wants to learn this advanced, like ninja shooting and stuff like that. There's no such thing. We have a saying in our company, there's no such thing as advanced training. There's just an advanced application of the fundamentals. It's still the fundamentals, whether you're laying down or behind a vehicle or whatever, it's still the fundamentals. You're either good at the fundamentals or you're not.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the different courses that you're offering, because in a real world situation, not that I know, but coming from, the Army, which is the best of the 4 military services, by the way, but coming from the Army, you learn that it's not you just standing there, your gun's up in the air and you're just shooting randomly. No, it's not like that. There's different scenarios, and I like a place to offer something like that to teach you, and that's what I look for in a place, so, and that's what your place happens to have, and offers.
Yeah, most of our training, especially in the early days, came based on, Marine Corps training, real training. Not the Army standing around shooting at just random things, trash can wiggled, so we shot it. But
Lunchtime.
right, yeah, real marksmanship instructors, and but that's another thing too with our company. We have a lot of veterans there, a lot of Army, Navy.
Law enforcement.
Shout out to Chris Rudy. Combat engineer or whatever they call him. Fighting CB, I think is what it is. But so we just kind of gravitate to those people, and we all kind of speak the same language, and we all kind of understand each other. So it kind of works out for our company.
That fits the podcast theme so far as well. We've had some veterans on. We've done a few of the Coast Guard, the Army, the Afghan War.
The Coast Guard, is that a real branch? Whoever's on that podcast is going to come looking for me.
Oh, yeah. No, it's pretty good. I like the Coast Guard, too.
He has to say that.
Let's see. So getting...
You're going to get some hate mail from the Coast Guard. We like it.
Yeah,
it's all good.
No, yeah,
These are all jokes. We're just having fun.
Don't worry. The Coast Guard guys are like, yeah, Marine. I get it.
Yeah.
He knows. They know.
So let's get down to the reason why we're here at this particular one. I was telling Tom I was going to go shooting with my son one day, and we get in the car, and rarely do I come down this street. I just happen to come down this. I was heading to another range, and I see these signs all over the place. We have ammo, we have ammo. So I stopped in and met Lina, and she started talking, and she was throwing so much information at me, I was overwhelmed for a second there. And then I just started, she introduced me into the virtual, which is my favorite, So let's talk a little bit about the virtual. What made you come up with that idea, or actually, because I don't know anybody else who has that.
I don't either.
Yeah, so with the whole training aspect of it, we felt like we've always kind of played around with virtual. Like the military uses virtual, law enforcement uses virtual, so there is training value to it. Real, like, higher end virtual. There's some real kind of janky stuff you could do as well. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to make it higher end. Some of these systems are just crazy expensive. But we felt there was a good training aspect to it. And so we've always kind of thought about it on the back end, But especially with last year with COVID and the price of ammunition going through the roof and things like that, we thought maybe we should just really implement the virtual and kind of see how people respond to it. You know, we you know, it's the modern age. We get people on the internet, you know, we post an ad for virtual. They're like, oh, that's stupid. You clearly don't understand the training aspect of it.
They don't.
You know, that's just being short-sighted. There's a lot of training value to the virtual as far as, you know, some of the fundamentals, sight alignment, trigger, things like that. And there's a lot of games, we could say, or programs on there where you can hone those skills and practice those skills. But in that same aspect, it can be a lot of fun, too. It can be like a large video game. It's funny because the system is really expensive. And when I was buying it, you know, I tell my wife one thing, and then we have actual discussions with the guys.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What if it doesn't work?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna have this really cool video game in my basement. Just don't tell my wife how much it costs." You know. But luckily, it's working out, and there is real training value to it. But then, like I said, there's a lot of fun to it too. These kids love it. My daughter, she's 7. She shoots pirates in there.
So
you know,
that was the one thing I was going to mention is I've only been here for a few minutes and got to do a little tour and everything, and the amount of children that can learn safely, learn properly, and have fun doing it is endless. And just in virtual training without having to worry about, like you said, the mishaps, the misfire, anything like that is taken away while the children are still completely safe and learning the right way. So it blew me away.
Absolutely. It's a more relaxed environment, you know, because people are going to make mistakes, especially first-time gun owners and things like that. And so it's easier to explain, you know, muzzle discipline and don't point it this way. And a lot of first-time shooters, even though we take them to the range and, you know, they're like, oh, start them with a 22 and, you know, everybody's an expert on teaching somebody. And there's more than one way to do it. But they're always constantly worried about the recoil. You talk to any shooter, oh, the recoil, oh, it's going to kick so much and this and that. With these guns in particular, especially the laser only, there is no feedback loop like that. There's no kick. So there's no recoil. So they can focus on actually aligning the sights and squeezing the trigger and kind of seeing that aspect of it. And then we can take them to the range with the 22s, and it's not so scary, and then kind of work them up through the calibers, you know, instead of just like, hey, here's a 1911-45. Good luck, honey.
Yeah.
You know, and then
And
the wife shoots it.
nervous.
Yeah, she hates it, and then she never comes back.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, for me, when we went in there, me and my son, we went into the virtual, and at first we're shooting the targets, which was really fun. And then we found this program. I'm actually going to put the video up as we're talking, but we found this one where you line up next to each other, and then it just pops up randomly, and you shoot it. And the first one, it'll tell you who got it first. Actually, me and my brother-in-law were doing that, you know, but we changed it up. We were keeping the gun down. You had to bring it up. They have holsters. They have guns that these are exact copies of what they have there.
So one of the coolest things when I was in that room is that not only are there's multiple types of guns in there, so
Yeah.
you can, there's real weight, real feel, real trigger reaction. Everything feels 100% real.
You know, and they have holsters, so you can put it in the holster. You can practice having it under your shirt and bringing it out, and boom. You know, so that's what me and my brother-in-law were doing. We're having a blast. He beat me the whole time. I was mad, but you know,
We won't show that part.
But you don't do that with real guns unless you go to a course or something like that. I mean, it's kind of tough. We did stuff like that in the Army, live fire and all that, but in courses. But you know, as far as all the other ranges I've been to or anything, they didn't offer anything like that at all. And to me, that's proper training. You know, pull it out, aim it at something, and shoot and get it. You know what I mean? The computer will tell you if you hit it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and it actually showed me where I missed it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, you know, you're talking split seconds. Boom, boom, boom.
And unless you're in law enforcement, you're not walking around with your gun out, pointed, ready to go. It's just not.
I ask a lot of people that when they have their CCW, how many of you, like, I'll walk around the house. I'll of course, take the ammunition out, but I'll walk around the house practicing where I holster it or where I have it, pulling it out as fast as I can. You know what I mean? How many people actually do that? So if you're going to have your CCW and you think it's going to be an actual situation where you're going to be able to set up, take aim. No, it's a different situation out there. So I love that you have that. How many people come in? Is it a very busy situation you have with this virtual?
It started out slow. I think the first month, it really picked up the second month. We're in month 4 right now, and we're actually doing pretty well. We get a variety of different people. I've had a birthday party. I had 10, 13-year-olds. I've had 4 couples come in. They were, older in age. They loved it. They had a great time. They stayed. We're open. We say we have limited hours as far as when we're open, but if you go online, we're actually open all day from 10 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night.
Okay.
But somebody had booked a party, and we stayed open till 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So it just, we cater to the needs, of the people that come in. We've had kids come in. It's just a variety. We have regulars that come in. I have somebody that comes in every single week,
Wow.
and they see it as training. They leave and they're like, oh, my arms hurt,
Yeah.
So once a week for a half hour, they come in. So it's just a variety of different people. I have women. Women come in. They like it. They come by themselves. They really enjoy it.
For me, if you're going to teach somebody who's never touched, I would think start here.
Yeah.
That's what I would think. But I'm no instructor. I don't
You
know
know-
how do you approach that. That's tough.
And that's one of the things too. A lot of people, especially a lot of instructors, will teach or preach dry fire training. Dry fire training, this and that. And then some people, poo-poo the laser training, and it's like that's dry fire training with a feedback loop.
With results.
Yeah, you can see what's going on. You can see if it's really working. Just like you had mentioned, like the holster work. Like you can do the holster work in there. A lot of times on ranges you can't, and that's an insurance issue. That's a safety issue. If you make a mistake and shoot it into the floor, that's a big deal. If you do it on the laser sim range, nothing happens. You're just like, oh, I'm an idiot. I messed that up. So it's not. So they're really missing the training aspects of the laser sim trainers.
And like you said, the fundamentals, you get the fundamentals with the laser training. It's very easy to focus on what you need to do as opposed to, like you said, once I shoot this, how far back is my wrist going to recoil?
Right.
You're not even worried about that. You're just focused on hitting that target. That's
Right. No, and everybody's an expert going around their house, shooting things like, oh, I killed that. Yeah, one shot. Really? Well, the laser's not going to lie. We're going to know if you hit it or not.
Right.
So.
And with me seeing it too, I know a lot of the older generation thinks like duck hunt with the little gun on the,
Yeah.
it's nothing like that.
No.
This is a real virtual reality training
In a word,
session.
what I liked about it, and I meant to ask you earlier, is how did COVID affect you? And I'll get around to why I like the virtual range. Did it affect your business at all? Because I know there was a lot of things going on during COVID, as far as
The ammo world.
ammo and the availability of, it seemed like everywhere you went, there were lines out the door.
Yeah.
People looking for everything. They were stocking up, So how did that affect your business?
So COVID wasn't really bad on our business, surprisingly. I think the economy and everything was going really well, and people were just kind of sitting at home and they were bored. So a lot of people came out and shot and trained, and our classes were ridiculous. The demand for them, so it actually did us pretty well. So when we compare numbers, we track our numbers year over year, and so we go 2019, and we kind of take 2020 out because it was such an anomaly, and we compare 19 to 21, and we're like, okay, we're still progressing like we want to, but it's actually a step back if you throw 20 back in there, just because there was just so many people were just around, and I don't know if they were bored, they were looking for something to do, and it worked out really well. There was a run on ammunition. There was a run on guns. Everybody was buying guns. There was some weird statistic about all these first-time gun owners and things like that. All that's kind of calmed down, but there's still supply chain issues and issues with getting ammo. Ammo's really expensive still. So that's kind of tamping down business a little bit. But, and that's one of the reasons we always look into diversify and get other training in there. With the laser sim trainer, I can go in there, and shoot theoretically 1,000 rounds, and it's super cheap. If I go to the range and shoot 1,000 rounds, I think the cheapest I saw was like, $450 for a case of ammunition, which is
Yes.
1,000 rounds, so
Absolutely.
it's definitely a cost-effective solution to get that practice and some training in.
With me and my son, we were going out and, just trying to practice, once in a while with 9mm, and that was hard to find. We turned to this, and we had a blast, So I kind of felt that when I finally went back, the first time I went back after the virtual was at your range about a week ago, I still did good. You know what I mean? So I felt that this actually helped and improved, compared to real fire. So I highly recommend this. I've been trying to tell everybody, like, this is awesome. This is awesome. So
I got to do one round before we started. I got to do a round of the virtual training, and it was definitely exceeds expectations tenfold. It was definitely more exciting, more fun. You say game, but it's not a game. It is training, but it's so much fun. It was so much fun just playing around and seeing how to
Some of
shoot a
those,
gun.
some of those scenarios come at you so fast,
Oh, yeah.
and you start sweating. You're like, oh man,
that's
like
what happened.
it gets a lot going on in there. It's more than people think. I think the traditionalist, they're quick to dismiss it.
And we do have quite a few people, they'll come in to look at the ammo, and I'll mention the virtual range, and they're real hesitant. No, it's okay. And then I say, it'll just take 2 minutes, just check it out. And then they're like, wow, this is really cool. And they end up coming back.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what they expected at all.
yeah,
And you can walk down, like we talked a little bit in there, walking down and feeling the guns, and I gravitated toward the one that's sitting right here in front of us. It was just, it felt the best in the hand. It literally felt like it just rested in my hand, and that's something you don't think about. You get to experience a gun feel in the hand without really shooting it.
right.
Yeah, and they're not all like generic guns. They're actually modeled after specific models of guns. So, we have our Glocks, our M&Ps in there, our SIG 320. Like, if you're a gun guy, you pick it up and you know right away, oh, this is modeled after a 320. But I'm sure for licensing or whatever, they can't call it that in there. But
I think that's the one I grabbed was the MPP. I think that's the one that I grabbed.
Yeah, the M&P, yep.
MMP, that's
Yep.
what it was.
What is the future of that? You were saying at one time you're looking into getting into rifles, maybe, or maybe something that recoils at some time. Or,
Yeah, they have some green gas guns that recoil. We've got a number of things in the works because we're always trying to expand our training offerings and things like that. But they have guns that actually recoil. They have rifles. The thing about these laser guns, they shoot these IR lasers, and they're actually quite expensive. It's almost like buying real guns in a lot of ways, and price point wise. So it's hard to get a lot of them. So right now we have a lot of pistols here because that's primarily what people focus on. But we've got rifles coming. We're probably going to get into the green gas. We just want to see how cost effective that is too, because you don't want to price yourself out of what people are willing to pay to do it. Like, oh, that's really cool, but that's really expensive. People aren't going to do it. So
yeah, and his prices. Speaking of prices, were very. I mean, they were right. They were competitive. So it wasn't like I went in and like this place is expensive. It was very competitive. So it is definitely a place. It's going to be where I go from now on. But I did have a question that I wanted to ask is, as far as services, do you have a gunsmith? Do you have somebody that, that you can do work on your gun that you would recommend, or do you guys do that?
we recommend a lot of people in the area that we know, and that we have good relationships with, and we understand that they value customer service and things like that. They share our values. We don't want to recommend people we don't trust. As far as our staff, we do. So people get confused. They're like, oh, I need sights on my gun. I need a gunsmith. No, what you need is an armorer, someone who can put sights on a gun.
Right.
Gunsmith is like a whole nother craft. So we have plenty of armorers. We have lots of armorers in our company. We don't have any gunsmiths.
Okay.
We do recommend some gunsmiths. We even recommend other gun shops because we sell guns and maybe we don't have it. We have good friends over at Summit Armory in Richfield. We recommend them all the time. We're like, go check out Summit, see if they've got one or whatever. So
Nice.
we're not like, oh, just us or nothing.
That follows the pattern of just making sure that the customer is completely happy and satisfied, and it's not necessarily coming maybe from your shop, but you're making sure they get what they want
Right.
or need. And
Yeah.
that goes right back to the customer service, and
Yeah.
it seems to be a pattern.
Yeah. Like I said, I had a blast there, and I love this place. I was so happy when you agreed to do the podcast. I was like, so I had to think about it a lot. So I know I fumbled a little bit in the beginning, but
We'll take that out.
yeah, we can edit a
Editing.
personality into it.
So along your journey, what would you say has been your biggest hurdle as far as it could be anything from licensing to finding shops? What has been your biggest hurdle?
I would say the number one issue we have, or I have, is I just take on things and I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm going to teach CCW. No idea what I was doing. I'm going to start a company. No idea what I was doing. Oh, let's do the virtual thing. No idea what we were doing. And we kind of figure it out along the way.
Create a website.
Yeah, and we're just like, we'll figure it out. And it you know what? It's almost like when your wife gives you a project. She's like, 5 minutes. It'll take you 5 minutes. And then, 5 months later, you're like, I think I got this figured out.
I'll finish it this weekend. I promise.
So they always take more time and effort than I think in the beginning. But in the end, we always manage to work it out. That being said, in the early days, it was all me. But at this point, there's a whole there's a whole team behind us that do a lot of work and a lot of heavy lifting for us, so that we can focus on these things and get these different aspects done. We've been very lucky with finding really good people. So.
Yeah. So if somebody does want to sign up for a class or see what you got, you have a website. You were saying that.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of websites, but workmanfirearms.com is the main website.
I'll be putting that up too.
And then the two ranges that we have, the live fire ranges, are range42.com, and then the virtual ranges are 42 virtual over here. And you can book a time whenever. We literally live like 5 minutes from here, so it's easy for us to run down here and open up and let people enjoy it.
Okay. And you're on Facebook too. You have a Facebook page?
Oh, we have a big social media presence. We hate it. We hate it, but it's like one of those necessary evils these days.
We were talking about that.
We're finding that out.
Yeah.
Neither one of us are heavy social media users, but it seems to be a necessity nowadays.
It
for
is.
anything.
It is. In order to get seen or found, you have to do these things. So we're out there on Facebook and all that other stuff. Instagram, you name it.
Well, you good?
Well, I just had a few more questions. So, Lina, doing the front aspect of it, the business end of it up front, do you notice a difference in clientele on, as far as like maybe not locations, but over the years? As far as over the years have you noticed more types of people coming in, or has it been pretty steady, the same group coming in?
With the live fire or the virtual?
Just in general.
Just
so
in general.
yeah, over the last 10 years, has it been, now you're getting the kids, so you got the virtual, is it bringing the kids in? We talked about the women coming in and feeling more safe. Just the atmosphere alone makes everyone feel comfortable. It feels like feels like I'm in your house almost.
Right. That's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly have not been doing this for that long. I married into this business. What I can say is what I hear people say when I'm at the ranges or even here is they really enjoy it. They like that it's welcoming. They love the customer service. I do see women. I see senior citizens. I see children. We've had as young as 6 or 7 come in with mom or with dad. So I think that's great. Even at the gun ranges, I've seen dads come in with their kids and they're already learning to shoot at 8, 9 years old. So I
Just
see
to show you-
a variety of different people come in all the time.
Any age, any
Skill set, any skill set.
Yep. You're welcome here at the range here at R42.
Yep.
Nice. We'll be editing this part out. But anything else? Because he gets mad at me because I end up. He's like, "Oh, you always want to shut down too fast."
No.
But-
I mean, I think one of the things I've noticed that with Lina's presence or touch on the different things, like we're primarily guys, we're primarily military guys, and we're like, lights out, we'll get to that, not a big deal. But Lena's like, no, you got to fix that. Women don't want a dark space or whatever, like just weird aspects like that where we're like, yeah, we wouldn't bother with it.
What color you want to
She's
paint
like, oh, you
prison gray?
can't. Yeah, we're like, like gunmetal gray. Like, put some bars on it. It'll be fine. She's like, you can't put bars on it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think cleanliness is really important, and women tend to. I mean, they pick up on those things, and so we had a couple that they come into Brunswick every single week on Friday. It's like their date. They they shoot, and then they go have lunch with their husbands. And she actually, I met her, and she came up to me and gave me a hug, and she said, "Thank you for cleaning the bathroom." They were starting to count like the spider webs or something in there. She's like, "It's so much nicer now that you guys, have done what you did." So it's just little things I think that make a difference.
They do.
And so that's what I'm really key on and big on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely noticed as soon as
Organization.
you walk in. It's noticed. It's just.
Oh yeah, you
it's that
walk in
feeling.
here. I want to buy everything. The way you have it set up, it's like, I need that and that and that. But
Doing great.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, plus it's Lena being here. We joke all the time. We're like, you should just start selling coffee and donuts there. People just want to hang out and talk to you.
well, she
You
sold
already have
me.
a coffee maker.
Yeah,
It's ready to go.
she sold me on everything. She was the one telling me that you guys had this. And then when I approached her about the podcast, she was like, "Well, I don't know if I know anything." I'm like, "You told me everything." I was like, "I have to go see these other places now." So, that's what I liked about it. So,
Definitely.
all right, you feeling good?
I feel good.
You feel good? Everybody, okay, I'm going to wrap this up. All right, I think we're going to just wrap it up right here. I want to thank you very much. I appreciate it like you wouldn't believe for having the podcast with us. And then I hope we did you justice here. I was really looking forward to this place. And please, if anybody, check them out. They got a great business going on here, and we will post everything at the end. I'm gonna try and throw in some videos along the way, and I'll have all their information there at the end there. So,
Yeah, it's a great business and even better people. So please stop by.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we're recording. All right. Jeez, oh man.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You sure?
Welcome to the JP Podcast. I'm your host, John.
I'm your co-host, Tom.
And today we are at Workman Firearms, Range 42, R42 in North Royalton. And we're here with Glen and Lina. Let me do that all over. Okay.
A little more, I don't know, enthusiasm would be nice.
Okay, thanks.